There are tears no one ever sees. They fall in hidden places, at night, behind closed doors, in silent rooms. When the soul can no longer pretend to be strong, when the weight becomes too much to carry, and the heart breaks without sound, these tears are not loud. They do not cry for attention. They are sacred, born from pain too deep for words, from wounds not yet named, from longings unspoken. The world walks past them. People may see your face, but not the storm behind your eyes. They may hear your words, but not the war in your silence. And so you cry alone. You collapse inward. You wonder if anyone would notice if the last piece of you quietly disappeared, but I did. I always did. Not one of your tears escaped my gaze. Not one fell unnoticed. Not one was wasted. They landed in my hands, every drop, every tremble, every aching breath. I have counted them all. I did not turn away from your sorrow. I leaned in closer. When others backed away from your grief, I drew near. You did not see me then. Your pain was too loud, your mind too clouded, but I was there holding you even when you didn't feel held. You thought no one understood, and perhaps, on earth, that was true, but heaven wept with you. My heart broke when yours did, not because I am weak, but because I am love, and love does not ignore pain. It enters it. It walks into the dark with you and refuses to leave. That is what I did. I sat with you in the silence. I wrapped you in a comfort you did not know how to receive yet, and I began healing you before you even asked. Me too. There are things you've lived through that you've never been able to explain. There are memories, too painful to touch. There are words you've never spoken out loud, but I know them, all of them, and I do not run from them. I remain. You are never too much. Your emotions, your breakdowns, your nights on the floor, none of it scared me. None of it made me love you less. You have been told to be strong, to get over it, to move on, but I never said that. I simply whispered, let me carry you. Strength was never about pretending. It was always about surrender. And surrender begins in tears. The tears you cried in secret became the soil where I planted healing. You didn't feel it then, but something was already growing beneath the ache. Your tears have purpose. Not because I enjoy your suffering, but because I redeem everything. Even this, especially this. I know how the ache built slowly, how the loneliness crept in, how disappointment hardened your heart like stone. I know what you lost, what you buried, what you were afraid to hope for again. I know who walked away, who wounded you with silence, who failed to protect the little pieces of your soul that you offered with trembling hands. I saw it all. I counted it all. And I did. Not just see, I wept to because when you hurt, I hurt. You are not invisible to me. You never were. Even when you thought I was silent, I was speaking comfort into your spirit. Even when you believed I was absent, I was holding you in the places you thought were broken beyond repair. You cried over love lost, over dreams undone, over questions without answers, over prayers that felt unheard. And yet none of it was missed. None of it was in vain. I have been writing healing into your story long before you saw signs of recovery. I have been rebuilding what was torn down, restoring what was stolen, redeeming what the enemy tried to use to convince you you were abandoned. You were never abandoned. You were seen. You were chosen. You were beloved, even in your darkest hour. The tears you hid became the language I used to draw your soul closer to me, not because I required your pain, but because pain often speaks the truth you tried to avoid. Pain reveals need, and I have never turned away from need. I do not shame the broken. I do not reject the fragile. I do not punish the heart that dares to feel deeply. I hold it, I mend it, I breathe life into it again. You do not have to pretend with me. I am not impressed by masks. I love you as you are, not as you think you should be. Let your tears fall. Let them be holy. I am not tired of them. I do not roll my eyes at your weakness. I celebrate your honesty. I bless your surrender. The ones who weep in secret are often the ones whose souls are most tender to my voice. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are not disqualified. You are the one I came for. You are the one I stayed for. You are the one I am healing. Slowly, gently, completely. The tears you didn't think mattered are the very drops I used to water the roots of new life. Life is coming. Peace is rising. Healing is unfolding. You will not cry forever. You will not stay in the shadows. There is joy ahead. There is purpose in the pain. There is redemption in your story. I have not wasted one moment. I have not wasted one tear. I counted them. I kept them. I held them. And I am turning them into glory. The tears that once fell silently have not dried without purpose. What was poured out in the dark has begun to nourish something unseen. Beneath the weight of sorrow, something sacred was taking root. While the world thought you were breaking, heaven knew you were being sown. Tears are not signs of weakness, they are seeds. They soften the hardened ground of the soul. They prepare the heart for growth. They whisper prayers the mouth cannot form. And in those prayers, even wordless, I was already moving. You thought your weeping marked the end of your story. But those tears were the beginning of a sacred unfolding, because from them purpose began to stir. It did not arrive with thunder. It was quiet, gentle, like morning light seeping through cracked shutters, like breath returning to lungs that forgot how to expand. Purpose is not always loud. Often it is born in silence. And so it came to you, not as a command, but as an invitation. Not a demand for performance, but a beckoning into presence. Where once you mourned, you now began to feel a flicker of meaning. The ache was still there, but no longer empty. It was becoming holy, because it was leading you somewhere. I never wasted your sorrow. I never let a single tear fall without collecting it in my hand. And in that same hand, I have begun forming what comes next. What was broken is not discarded. It is remade. You are not a ruin to be mourned. You are a temple being restored. Even when you could not see it, I was building. I was gathering every shattered piece. I was shaping something eternal. I saw you lie in bed with eyes open wide, wondering if morning would ever feel light again. I saw you pull away from others, afraid your grief would be too much. I watched as you silenced your own voice, believing your pain made you less worthy to speak. But I never asked you to be silent. I never turned away. I never needed you to be whole before I called you mine. I called you when you were crying. I named you when you were hiding. I claimed you while you were falling apart. And now, I am raising you up, from the ground soaked in sorrow. Joy is beginning to bloom. Not the fragile joy of distraction, not the fleeting joy of things going well, but the deep joy that comes from being known, from being loved, from being seen and still chosen. This joy is not a denial of grief, it is a companion to it. It does not erase what you felt, it honors it, because joy born from sorrow is the kind that cannot be shaken. It is steady, it is sacred. It sings even when the heart still aches. I am teaching you to sing again, not because your pain is forgotten, but because I am bigger than it. I am not asking you to pretend. I am inviting you to believe. You were never lost in your sorrow, you were being held through it. And now I am calling forth new life. Your story is not finished. Your tears were not the end. They were the watering of a future full of fruit. They were the beginning of a healing that would stretch beyond your own soul, because what you endured is not just being healed, it's being used. The pain you thought was only for breaking is now being woven into purpose. You will comfort others with the same comfort I gave you. You will see your scars reflected in theirs. And your story, the one you tried to hide, will become the testimony that opens doors. I have never required perfection, only willingness. And in your surrender, I have found space to do what only I can do. That you thought you had to climb out alone. But I was already inside the pit with you, and now I am lifting you out. Lift your eyes. Not everything is behind you. Much is still ahead. Hope is not a memory, it is your inheritance. What the enemy meant for your destruction, I am using for restoration. You are walking out with more than survival. You are walking out with glory. Because I do not just redeem. And in my hands, every tear becomes a river of healing. Every cry becomes a chorus of praise. Every silent night becomes a sunrise of testimony. You are rising, not by force, but by grace. Not with shame, but with strength. Because I have always seen you, I've always loved you, and I am not finished. Let the tears fall if they must. But no, they now fall into joy, because the story is still being written, and the next chapter is healing. Healing is never meant to stay contained. The same love that finds us in the pit, that lifts us up from silent sorrow, begins to pour out once the soul is strong enough to stand. What once felt like survival becomes the foundation for revival, not just within, but around. The soul that has known deep pain carries a rare kind of compassion. It doesn't speak quickly, it listens, it doesn't rush to fix. It sits with others, where it once sat alone, because it remembers, and remembering is sacred. You remember the silence, the weight, the feeling that you might never smile again, and because you do, you now see pain in others that most overlook. You see the trembling behind the brave face. You recognize the quiet distance. You hear the hidden ache inside their laughter, and because you see, you stay. You do not turn away. You do not offer shallow answers. You offer what you yourself were given, presence, and from that presence, healing flows. You never imagined your wounds could become wells of comfort. You never thought the same eyes that wept in secret would one day witness restoration in others. But that is what healing does. It multiplies that the comfort you received in your lowest hour becomes the comfort you now give freely. And it does not come from theory, it comes from testimony, from lived mercy, from personal grace. You don't speak from perfection, you speak from resurrection. You don't teach from a place of pride. You share from a place of humility because you remember who you were when no one else saw you. And now you become a reflection of what found you there. Mercy. You sit with the hurting and you don't try to rush them to healing. You wait. You listen. You whisper truths you once needed to hear. You're not alone. This isn't the end. You are still loved. It won't always feel this way. And somehow, those small truths begin to light up the dark. You never preach your healing. You live it. You carry it. You become a safe place for others to breathe again. Because healing is not a finish line. It is a fountain. The more you draw from it, the more it flows. And now, your life begins to take on a different shape. Purpose no longer feels distant. It begins to unfold, not in grand gestures, but in daily faithfulness. You wake up and notice others. You speak life over them even when they can't receive it yet. You pray quietly. You stay when it's uncomfortable. You forgive. You invite. You walk with and that is purpose. Purpose is not a title. It is presence. It is a willingness to love from the place where you were once unloved. It is serving without being noticed. It is speaking when others are silent. It is listening with your whole heart. You'll begin to live differently. You are not chasing fulfillment anymore. You are walking in it. Because every conversation is sacred. Every person is holy ground. Every moment is a chance to extend what was given to you without cost. This is the transition from healing to wholeness. From survival to significance. Your past no longer haunts you. It now equips you. Your story no longer silences you. It speaks through you. You are not who you were. You are lighter, clearer, stronger, not because the pain never happened, but because it no longer owns you. You carry peace now. Peace that cannot be shaken. Peace that flows through the cracks of your old wounds. Peace that testifies, God was with me, even there. You don't need a stage to make an impact. Your life is the stage. Your kindness becomes the sermon. Your consistency becomes the altar. And people notice, not because you seek attention, but because something unexplainable radiates from you. It is joy, but not naive joy. It is strength, but not prideful strength. It is love. Deep, divine love. Love that has walked through fire and come out carrying others. This is what happens when tears become rivers of purpose. You have not wasted your pain. You have not suffered in vain. Everything you have walked through is now light. For someone else, not because the pain was good, but because I am good. I turned sorrow into strength. I turned mourning into mission. And now, the soul that was once silent becomes a voice for others. Not to drown out their pain, but to remind them that healing is real. You live now with open hands. You give freely what you once begged for. You offer presence where others offer distance, and this is the overflow of grace. It cannot be contained. It seeks out the broken. It wraps itself around those who think they are beyond repair. You know better now. No one is beyond reach, because you were not. And so you go, you love, you speak, you walk. With purpose, with peace, with power not your own. Because I walk with you, I speak through you, I shine from within you. The soul that was once torn is now a tapestry. The heart that once bled is now a wellspring. The eyes that once wept now see, and what they see is holy. A life no longer surviving, a life now overflowing. Restoration is not only a gift to the soul, but a gift to the world around it. When a life has been healed, when sorrow has been turned into joy, when silence has become testimony, the very presence of that soul becomes a catalyst for change. Not by striving, not by noise, but by simply existing, restored. The healed soul begins to shape its environment, not because it demands control, but because it carries peace, and peace is contagious. You don't have to declare your freedom for it to be felt. It lingers in your words, in your silence, in the way you pause to see people others ignore. Where once you walked in survival, you now walk in overflow, and that overflow begins to leave an imprint. Every room you enter becomes a little softer, every conversation a little safer, every interaction a little more sacred, because you carry what cannot be manufactured. A history with God. And history with God marks you. You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. You live it. You no longer need to defend your healing. It breathes from your life. The quietness of your freedom is louder than any sermon, because what has been transformed from the inside out becomes undeniable. And this is how legacy begins. Not with applause, but with presence. Not with power, but with consistency. Not with influence, but with intimacy. You become a sanctuary too. Others because you became a sanctuary to me. Where you once felt unseen, you now help others feel seen. Where you once cried in silence, you now listen with sacred stillness. Where you once felt forgotten, you now remember others with compassion that surprises even them. And this is inheritance, to give away what was freely given to you, not out of duty, but delight, not because you must, but because you can't help, but pour out the love that changed everything. Your healing becomes seed, and everywhere you go, it is scattered. Some falls on broken ground, some falls on fearful hearts, some falls on those who resist, but the seed is never wasted, because it carries the weight of heaven. I have begun transforming your soul, not with spectacle, but with substance. I have placed you like light in dim places, like salt in places that lost their flavor, like stillness in chaotic rooms. You do not have to do more. You only need to be who I have restored. The life I have healed is now a vessel, and through that vessel I move, not in force, but in love, not in pressure, but in peace. People will not always know why they feel different around you, but they will. Feel it, the warmth, the safety, the calm. They may not name it, but they will know it. This is what love looks like. This is what hope smells like. This is what heaven whispers like when it finds a resting place in a soul. And as you continue to walk, you leave footprints that lead others home. Not to you, but to me. But to me, your healing was never just about you. It was always about generations. Your life speaks to more than the present. It speaks to the future. To children watching your faithfulness, to neighbors watching your integrity, to co-workers watching your peace. Without a word, your life becomes a sermon about the God who sees, the God who stays, the God who heals. What was once a wound is now a well. And wells nourish more than one person. They become a source for the thirsty, the weary, the wandering. Your home begins to shift. Because you host me there, your workplace shifts. Because you carry me there, your friendships deepen. Because you love with my love, you begin to notice transformation, not just in yourself, but around you. Forgiveness replaces offense. Peace replaces striving. Purpose replaces performance. Not because of effort, but because of my presence in you. You were once the one crying alone. Now you are the one holding others as they cry. And this is sacred. This is inheritance. This is how restoration becomes legacy. I have entrusted you with this healing, and you have stewarded it well, not perfectly, but faithfully. You kept walking, you kept believing, you kept surrendering. And now the harvest begins. Do not be surprised when others begin to awaken around you. Your life has become an invitation. To healing, to freedom, to me. Let me continue to build through you. Let me continue to transform what once seemed immovable. You have become a lighthouse, not because you tried to shine, but because I ignited something in the ashes of your tears. The same rooms where you once broke down will become rooms of breakthrough for others. The places that once echoed with grief will become gardens of laughter, because I am making all things new. And I began with you, so walk on with open hands, with soft eyes, with a heart that still remembers the ache but chooses to bless anyway. Let your healed life continue to speak. Let it echo through generations. Let it be a living letter that says, He met me here, He stayed with me, He healed me, and now everything has changed. There is a sacred weight that rests on those who have endured silently, whose love remained constant when everything else faded. The soul that wept in secret, that walked the long road without applause, now stands before the quiet revelation of glory, not the kind the world recognizes, but the kind heaven honors. This is the coronation of the faithful, not the loud, not the praised, not the ones who always knew what to do, but the ones who stayed, the ones who trusted through the ache, the ones who believed when nothing around them made sense. The soul that walked through fire and did not give up is now crowned, not with gold, but with peace. Not with status, but with stillness. Not with crowds, but with the unshakable presence of the one who never left. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of eternal fullness. You are not merely recovering. You are reigning. Not in the way the world defines it, but in the deeper reality where victory looks like rest, and strength looks like softness, and power looks like surrender. Are now living from a place you once only dreamed of, a life fully saturated with my presence. You wake with peace, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You walk with purpose, not because you have all the answers, but because you are led by trust. You love freely, not because everyone is safe, but because you are. The trials that once shook you now remind you of how deeply you are rooted. You no longer fear the storms. You have lived through the flood, and found that I was your foundation. The tears that once broke you have become rivers of joy that run through your soul, and from these rivers others drink. Not because you try, but because you are overflowing. There is no striving in this season. Only being. There is no hunger to prove, only the quiet fullness of one who knows they are home. This is what the crown looks like. Not glitter, not admiration, but rest and joy, and the deep knowing that nothing was wasted. Your story now echoes in eternity, because you allowed me to write it, word by word, tear by tear, step by surrendered step. And now I place my hand upon your life, not to commission you for work, but to bless you with delight. You have labored, you have waited, you have been faithful. Now live in the reward. This is not about arrival, this is about abiding. Abide in my love, abide in my joy, abide in the fullness of who you were always meant to be. You no longer chase healing, you live in it. You no longer reach for purpose, you carry it with every breath. You no longer search for identity, you wear it like a robe. Beloved, this is your inheritance, this is your legacy, this is the quiet crown of those who endured. Heaven sings over you, not because you were perfect, but because you were present. Because you kept choosing me, even when it was hard, even when it was quiet, even when no one saw, I saw. And now, I honor you. Will walk in favor not because of striving, but because of alignment. You will speak with weight not because of eloquence, but because of presence. You will bless without effort because you are a fountain that no longer runs dry. The eternal has touched the present. You no longer wait for heaven to begin, you live in its first fruits. Joy is your daily bread, peace is your rhythm, love is your nature, not because of willpower, but because of oneness with me. The soul that was once fractured is now whole, the heart that once hid is now radiant, the life that once felt lost has become a beacon. You are no longer just restored, you are crowned. This is what it means to reign in life, to carry the unseen glory of love poured out, faith upheld, and hope fulfilled. You have become the living testimony of mercy fulfilled. Let your steps be light now, let your breath be steady, let your heart rejoice. The weight is gone, the grief is healed, the tears have become songs, and I dance with you now. In the field you once sowed in sorrow, you will laugh without fear, you will love without reserve, you will live without lack, because I am with you, I am in you. And I crown you not for what you have done, but for who you have become, one with me. This is the fullness of life. This is the garden after the rain. This is the sunrise after the long night. This is the reward of the one who did not give up. Your crown is not on your head alone, it is on your heart. It shines from your eyes, it radiates from your words. You are royalty, not because you rule over others, but because you reign with me, in humility, in gentleness, in truth. Live now, beloved, from the place of final peace. Let your breath carry the sound of heaven. Let your smile carry the presence of the King. Your life be the anthem. I was held, I was healed, I was crowned, and now I overflow.